World of Matchups is back. Week number 4 in the National Football League. Dexter Reid, Spencer the Wiz, World of Matchups, Blue Milk Boys Gaming, bringing the heat. First things first, Spencer, what's good, baby? Welcome back in. Let's talk about Thursday Night Football. I got a lot to say about this. I think the Bengals did what they had to do. I was at work all day Thursday, so I didn't get a chance to make a preview, so I won't really talk or speak to that. But I'm glad that the Bengals did what they had to do because as AFC champions, they were looking pretty porous this year. I do feel like they got to find a way to get that line working, man. Joe Mixon with like 100 carries for 5 yards. That's something they have to take care of. I think Jamar Chase will eventually blow up. They're doubling him. T. Higgins is going to be the big time recipient, I think, this year. I think T. Higgins is going to have the type of year this year that Jamar Chase had last year because Chase is not sneaking up on anybody anymore. Their defense did enough to win the game. I do personally think Joe Burrow will never make it back to another Super Bowl. He's going to fall under that category of quarterback for me, but I like what happened. They put the game away late when they needed to. That's my thought on Cincinnati. Your thoughts on them?
Yeah, obviously a pretty slow start, but I think that's kind of natural. When it comes to Super Bowl hangovers, no one wants to believe they're true, but they go into the off season, and I think no matter how much they say it, and you can say the right thing in interviews, like when you step foot on the field, your first thought is, I want to go back to the Super Bowl, and forget that there's a whole regular season. I think it's just natural. It's like part of human nature, and I think now they're starting to kind of get it together. But man, that offensive line sure is a problem for them. Maybe not against some of the lesser opponents. They played some pretty tough teams so far, all things considered, not the Cowboys, but you know what I mean? The Dolphins look like they're poised to make a pretty deep playoff run. Go figure. Teddy Bridgewater obviously had to come into the game, and at that point, you kind of knew it was over. Not to discredit him completely, but, Joe Burrow versus Teddy Bridgewater for most of the game, I think it's kind of obvious what's going to happen.
Yeah, for sure.
But obviously the Bengals have a ton of offensive weapons. That's never going to be the issue. It's just that dang offensive line. And, they brought in a few guys over the offseason thinking that they made an improvement. And they thought if we can just do a little bit of an improvement from last year, well, then, we're set up for gold. But it looks worse than last year, which is just crazy. I hope I can find this tweet, but Lyle Collins was saying, like, your savior has arrived or something like that. And, man, he looked the worst. He may have looked the worst. Well, the left tackle looked awful, but he was definitely a contributing factor to his pressure in that game.
Yeah, he's been one of the worst free agent moves in the offseason, talking about how Joe Burrow's got like Secret Service guys now.
Yeah, that's what it was.
Joe Burrow's running for his life. That offensive line took a step backwards. And if this is the type of thing that doesn't get corrected, the Bengals aren't going anywhere because you just can't have your franchise quarterback running for his life on his back. You guys can't pass block. You guys can't run block. Joe Mixon's running into a whole bunch of guys. You can't punch it in from the 2. Coach is losing faith in you. It's not looking good. They won that game, but let's not be fooled. They have a lot of issues, both on the offensive side of the ball and the defensive side of the ball. I think the Cincinnati Bengals are a product of we got hot at the right time, just like some teams in fantasy get hot at the right time, and they were 500 teams, and then they win the chip. I think that's kind of where I'm looking at the Cincinnati Bengals. I'm not galvanized about anything that they're doing, but they won the game that they needed to win. Conversely, we got a lot to talk about here in Miami.
There is
a lot. So we'll talk about the game first. Like you said, I think once touchdown Teddy came in, the game was over. I think Teddy Bridgewater is nothing but a journeyman, barely serviceable backup quarterback. I think that because Tua has been now injured back-to-back weeks and how poorly it's been handled, I think that the Miami Brass will try to save face here and trot Teddy out there for at least a month because there's just so many questions surrounding Miami, and I think that downgrades everybody on the offensive side of the ball. Tyreek will still be Tyreek, but look, let's be honest, nobody is scared of Teddy Bridgewater. Now, to the injuries, I think Mike McDaniel's in trouble here. I really do. I think that there was no way that Tua should have played after coming out of the game last week, and they brought him back in. And I don't think that he should have played this week. Now, I know they're saying all the right things, that he was cleared, independent neurologist, this, all the team doctors, this. McDaniels is like, we would never put him in a situation to be injured if we thought for a second, blah, 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 blah. Okay. Now, look, I'm not falling for any of it. I'm not a doctor. However, the eye test is the eye test. Now they're saying that the first initial injury when he was pulled out was a back injury. Dude, that was a concussion.
Yeah,
That's a
actually,
concussion.
you know what? Let's take a look at that first hit, and we'll
Yeah,
just look at it. Well, this was from the live broadcast. So we'll even see what the broadcasters' first impressions were when they were
yeah.
watching it.
Let's roll that.
Tagovailoa, they bring pressure. He got away from Russo, and the diving catch by Waddle right underneath Hamlin. And the ball to the 28, gain of 8, and Tua. Oh, he's woozy.
Personal foul.
Oh my goodness.
Defense number 58. 15-yard penalty, first down.
Matt Milano, Russo, and others all coming in, and Tua.
That's not a good sign when you see him wobble like that, and they're going to have to obviously get an evaluation there. Milano with the hit.
We didn't see the finish. Here we will. Oof.
Oh, it's the back of his head hitting the turf.
Sure is. Teddy Bridgewater is the backup quarterback.
Yeah, the first thing, first of all, they described him as woozy getting up, not that he had an ankle or a back injury. I mean, come on, you can see it. That's not the mark of a someone who had an injured back and ankle. That's not what that looks like. At least to me. I mean, I'm not a medical doctor, obviously, but they describe, it was his head hitting back. That was the actual injury. He didn't hurt his ankle or back in that play, as far as I can tell. It doesn't look like it would be the result of an ankle or back injury. Just like logically thinking about it,
Yep. And be clear, you guys who are out there listening to us. I mean, we don't profess to be doctors. You know what I mean? We're just two dudes that love football. But the eye test is the eye test. And you heard what the commentator said. I mean, Matt Milano hardly pushed him. The injury occurred from his head hitting that turf. You know what I mean? And remember when Patrick Mahomes went down and got up and he was all woozy? I mean, he just took one stumble and was down. Dude, Tua looked like he lost his glasses in the dark there. You know what I mean? You got to get that guy off the field. Bringing him back, that was an egregious move to begin with. And I believe letting him play on a short week, that's even more egregious. And to top it all off, when you take him to the hospital after Thursday night's game, he's literally in the hospital in less than an hour. And then he's on a plane back home. I mean, to me, this is just malpractice. It's negligence at the highest degree. Again, I don't profess to be a doctor, but I know a couple things about head injuries. I used to work with developmentally disabled adults who would have seizures. And I saw a guy hit his head and have a seizure, a grand mal seizure. And we talked about the state of the brain injury and the hands and how.
Yeah, let's actually show that real quick so people know exactly what we're talking about.
Yeah. Rolling left with the brain, and down he goes. Slung down in his own 48-yard line. Josh Tufu. And, well, we saw last week.
Bro.
Yeah.
Bro, I don't know, man. That is really, really bad. And that's called to posturing, when the brain is trying to protect the body and your limbs are like frozen. I mean, that is a sign of a concussion, at best a concussion, if not possible further brain damage. And so it's scary. I feel for Tua. I never want to see that happen to anyone. I feel like Miami's handled this badly. I feel like the NFL is going to do everything they can to make them look good here, talking about how they did all the right protocols, and the neurologist and independent doctors all cleared him, and Mike McDaniels is saying all the wrong things. But to me, I think they're lying. I don't trust it. I don't trust it at all. And so now we have a situation where I believe they're going to hold Tua out to save face. They're saying that he's out indefinitely. I don't think he should have been on a plane. I don't think he should have played Thursday. I don't think he should have came back in the game Sunday. And it's sickening to watch. And they keep showing it over and over and over and over and over. And I wish they would stop.
Yeah, my first impression, the first thing I think of is like that second hit, I think could have happened like regardless of what happened the week before. Like football is a dangerous sport, right? It's only compounded and worse because it looked like he suffered a really bad head injury also last week. You know what I mean? It's like I think the way that that kind of tackle, that kind of sack happens all the time in the NFL. So it's not necessarily that the hit was so bad. It's just that, man, he probably shouldn't have been playing in that game like at all.
Period.
I mean, they're sacrificing this. Sorry, they're sacrificing this guy's health for Amazon Prime. You know what I mean? Like that, when you boil it down, it's like pretty much that's exactly what it is. And of course,
National Football League,
when you ask Tua if he wants to play, his answer is going to be yes. I mean, that's how when you play football, that's how it works. Like for some reason, there's a glorification of the game where you sacrifice your health for the game. And every player in the National Football League, as far as I can tell, would also say that I'm good, I'm ready to go. So when you're talking to a doctor, he asks, "Are you okay?" He's going to say yes. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think whatever test they did that took 10 minutes in the back of the football field during that first injury is ample enough to determine whether or not the guy actually had a serious brain injury versus, I mean, you don't know what kind of test. And of course, they go in the back of the stadium. You have no idea what happens in that conversation between the doctor and Tua. But man, I just the sacrifice for winning in football sometimes is a little scary. But hey, also, I think something that we can all agree upon when you play football is that these kinds of things can happen too. It's a gladiator sport. Sometimes it's easy to forget that you can die out there. These guys are hitting each other as hard as they physically can. And, you know, it's unfortunate. It's scary. It's obviously scary when you see a guy lose control of his limbs. But that's what happened.
It's horrifying, you know, and I think you said it, and I think this is something that needs to be definitely not glossed over with a minimum of concern. If the Miami Dolphins are 0-3, I don't think you see Tua.
Yeah, that's a great point. That's a great.
Okay? I don't think you see Tua, but you have now surged quickly in the first month of the National Football League from a team that was mediocre at best to a team that made a lot of the right moves, new coach, new weapons. And here we are. We've got Tua set up for success, and we're steamrolling teams now. We're making huge comebacks. We're 3-0. Tua's going to go out there. They're going to put him out there. Can you play, son? You coach, I think I could do it. You're out. Go out there and warm up. And I'm not saying that's what happened, but I'm not saying that's not what happened. But it would be nice to be a fly on the wall of those concussion protocol tests, because I'm here to tell you, he should not have been out there. There's no one on God's green earth that can convince me Tua is in shape enough to be on that football field. And the NFL is so shisty that they're going to cover this up and they're going to make it go away. And even if it means they have to sit Tua for 10 games, they're going to cover their backsides here. And the truth of the matter is that kid definitely did not belong on the field. And prayers up for Tua, man, because guys, if you're watching this, I saw him on TikTok. Go follow this guy. His name is Dr. David Abbasi. I just sent it to Spencer. He did like a 30-second breakdown exactly medically. He's a sports doctor, sports neurologist, of exactly what happened to Tua. You know what I mean? Sometimes these guys have concussions and they do what's called fencing. You see it in boxing where the hands go up and it just gets stiff. You know, but his decor get posturing. That is a major brain injury. Guys, don't expect to see Tua on the field anytime soon.
Yeah, to finish my thoughts on this, and I have to give a shout out to Brian Feldman for introducing this to me because it's just reminding me of it. I don't know if you remember this show. It was very popular, aired in 2013, called Playmakers, and
I love
it was
that
on
show.
ESPN, and it got high ratings. So here's the Wikipedia page. Although the ratings were very high for ESPN, Playmakers was the highest rated show on the network other than its Sunday night football and Saturday night college football games. ESPN eventually canceled the series under pressure from the National Football League, who disliked the portrayal of the negative aspect of its players' lives on the field, which was them in the locker room taking Vicodin and the whole 9 yards. Like the reality
was fire in that. Yeah, Cuba Gooding's brother Omar was. I love that show. He was so good in that. And I feel like that's seriously, I feel that like that's a true depiction of what's happening in some of these players' lives.
I think football saw that too.
Antonio
Or,
Brown. I mean, come on, bro. Like, seriously, like I
Yeah.
think that's real. That to me is one of the best football series of all time, and they pulled it.
Yeah.
Good
That's what I was
segue.
just thinking about. I was just thinking about it.
Prayers up to Tua.
Absolutely.
I think we're going to see Miami go in a different direction here now, and I think they might be a 500 ball club until they get Tua back. And I wouldn't expect to see Tua back before Christmas. I really
You would
wouldn't.
hope not. Is really what we're trying to say. You would hope not.
Well, they're pretty hush hush. I mean, he came out and made a statement thanking everybody, but it's all scripted. And if
Oh,
you
yeah.
have eyes to see, you can see behind the thin veil of how the NFL does things. And I'm not falling for the okie doke, and I don't
Yeah,
buy
they've been
any
great
of this.
falling.
I don't buy any of this for a second. There's no one on God's green earth that can convince me Tua should even come back in on Sunday, more or less play on Thursday. And that's all I got to say about that.